Does an environmental management system make good economic sense for your company? And how difficult would it be to develop this system? If you're not sure, it might surprise you what some of your business colleagues have learned in their companies. In this program, we will visit a lithographic printer and a screen printer to see what they've learned about environmental management systems and what this approach has meant for the bottom line. An environmental management system, or EMS, provides a structured approach for a company to manage environmental issues and program needs. Rather than settle for the hot environmental topic or crisis of the month, an EMS helps to focus a company's attention on the issues of greatest importance from perspectives of compliance, risk, and cost. To establish an EMS, a company first develops an environmental policy that clearly establishes its commitment to managing and solving environmental issues. Next, it reviews its operations to determine the level of environmental impact or significance of environmental issues associated with each operation. Usually, one or two priority issues are identified, and goals or targets are established to address those issues. Activities implemented to address those targets are then measured to determine their effectiveness. Where targets are not being met, corrective actions can be implemented and the process continues anew. This cyclical approach to improving processes leads to continuous improvement and can lead to increased efficiency and profitability. The most commonly used framework for an EMS is the ISO 14001 standard developed by the International Organization for Standardization. Today's program is focused on the experiences of two companies that have been moving toward EMS systems through a less formal process. Let's first visit Jeff Adrian of the John Roberts Company of Minneapolis, Minnesota. John Roberts Company operates both sheet-fed offset and heat-set web offset presses. Adrian explains the difference between just doing some environmental projects and an environmental management system.
The difference between an EMS and just putting everything together, stapling it together, if you will, is that by working on an EMS, you actually create an organizational structure. And that helps you benefit from the standpoint that you are able to move more from a reactive mode to a proactive mode. It gets you thinking ahead where you can anticipate things, and after all, that's what you're trying to do. If you're looking at the big picture, any business is looking at what impediments are there to future growth. And if you can answer those questions in advance, that's to your advantage. Ideally, a good EMS is not just a shelf document, something that you put up and do once, but rather it's a living document, one that goes on and on. In order to do that, an EMS should help you with your planning, with your implementation, with your assessment and corrective action over a period of time. I think several things really got us on the path for working towards an EMS. Among them, we certainly want to minimize our environmental impact. And wherever we can change our processes to do that, that would be certainly advantageous. Additionally, we were looking for potential bottom line savings. We were looking for savings in terms of administrating these things, if we could get some efficiencies in that regard. And then finally, if we could reduce or eliminate duplicative efforts, all of those things would help us do a better job, we felt. It came about because our loss control expert from our insurance company had taken a look at some of the excellent compliance plans that we had already prepared. And he said, you know, gee, speaking insuranceese, his language, you might want to consider putting this together into a loss control program. And I said, well, I didn't know very much about that. Tell me about it. And he did, and offered his services to help me organize things in that regard. So we sort of started, we got into this thing via the back door, if you will. And it was over time that it morphed into more than a loss control program, but a combined program that dealt with safety and environment and covered both the environmental management side of things and the loss control from a safety standpoint.
For the John Roberts Company, this was a process that began with a loss control program, which evolved into an environmental management system.
I think some of the things that we did at that point were to actually take the compliance plans, again, that we had, things like community right to know, employee right to know, things of that nature, which we already had on computer. So it was really pretty easy to move those into a combined program. Then we began to enhance that. We added things like our environmental policy, our safety policy, guidelines that supported those policies, and we just took our time adding an element by element as we develop these things, helping us to do that, of course. And one of the parts of our environmental program is to have an active safety and environmental committee.
The John Roberts Company has found some advantages on the bottom line as a result of its EMS initiatives.
The benefits of an environmental management system to John Roberts, I think applicable to any business, are reduced risk of environmental impacts, reduced business risks arising from liability exposure, elimination of duplicative efforts, especially in training of employees, for example, greater operational flexibility within our permits, significant bottom line savings from production improvements, favorable insurance coverage for any residual risk that we have left over, customer, employee, and community goodwill, greater administrative efficiencies, and finally, an excellent relationship with regulatory staff. The real issue that we should keep in mind is that EMS is more of a journey rather than an arrival. It's an ongoing process. In our particular case, we have some new regulatory requirements that we're soon going to be dealing with called risk management plans. In this case, we'll yet add another section to our EMS plan.
Okay, that's the sharpest point.
Additionally, one of the challenges is taking the EMS that you do develop and getting it down to every single level of the organization. This is where, on a daily basis, people who have nothing directly to do with EMS have taken into their daily activities the principles and the concept behind the EMS so that they are conducting their work in an environmentally responsible manner.
The John Roberts Company has an EMS program that has evolved from a loss prevention initiative to a comprehensive and ongoing process of continuous review and improvement. Now let's look at the experience of a smaller printer, TS Designs, which is a screen printer in Burlington, North Carolina. Eric Henry has provided strong management support for what began as a series of environmental projects. Those simple beginnings continue to evolve today toward an environmental management system.
Basically, TS Designs' environmental venture started a little over 10 years ago. And one of the first things we looked into was eliminating the styrofoam cups, the small sugars, the small stirrers that we offer to both our employees and to our customers when they come to TS Designs. Essentially what we did is we went back to our employees and asked them if they would have any hesitation in bringing in their own mugs, which they said not at all. So that was the start of our environmental venture. It's just one of those little small victories that we won one for the environment and won one for the bottom line. One thing I realized being in business is changing so fast-paced these days. We try not to set goals or standards that are too specific because we always got to be changing. Our main environmental goal at TS Designs is always to measure that cost, be aware of that cost, and try to do things to improve it. We do not have set standards that are very rigid because they might hold up today, but as regulation and technology changes, they won't hold up for the future. So we always want to measure what that impact is to the environment. Since we've embarked on this strategy over 10 years ago, I've just recently found out they had a title for this thing, EMS, Environmental Management Systems, which basically we have been doing all this time, not only to measure our impact on the environment, but also savings to the bottom line.
I'm really looking forward to trying out this new white. They say it's great.
TS Designs gets employees involved in the process of planning and implementation.
We have a general written statement at TS Designs in regards to the environment, which is we want to be aware of the impact that we have on the environment and always seek ways to improve on that impact in a positive way. And basically the way we do this is through strong management skills in directing our employees in leadership and tell them that we are concerned with this and we're always interested in ways to improve this. What we have found out in our business, because we have so many different issues that we have to address, is that when we have an environmental issue that affects a particular section of our business or industry, or department, we will get with that department and basically work with them to try to come up with solutions. We have found out a long time ago, if you get people on board in the early stages of developing a solution plan, they're most likely buy into it. So depending on where the particular environmental issue or concern is determining what group of people we will basically solicit to be on that group to solve that problem.
TS Designs has overcome a number of obstacles along the way towards implementation of an EMS program.
One of the biggest challenges that a small printer is faced with in developing an EMS program is that we all get so tied up in the day-to-day activities of our business that we fail to take a look at those costs. But I can assure you from our historical learnings that by looking at those costs, you can find tremendous savings there that will have a positive impact on the bottom line, but also have a positive impact on the environment. So it's worth the time to take a look at those costs. One of the biggest things that we do is all waste generation has a cost, and it's basically a cost that shows up on the income statement. So we basically watch those costs every month. You know, what are our utility costs, what are our garbage costs, what are our recycling costs, what are our utilities from electricity, water. They're measured every month. So we look at those costs, and they're pretty significant. We're always looking at ways in which to reduce those. So we have that information every month to try to find ways to get that number down.
TS Designs has found benefits including compliance, pollution prevention, and competitive advantage from its efforts to implement an environmental management system.
I think the main thing EMS has done for us is it's allowed us to set up a process in which to review ongoing technologies and environmental regulation changes, and not just having one set goal to address one set problem. So we're trying to develop an ongoing process, which you're going to have to be competitive and also address regulations that'll be forthcoming in our industry. By far, our biggest environmental success stories have been in reduction. That's in screen reclamation, adhesive alternatives, energy savings, and waste reduction. So basically, the biggest things that have impacted TS Designs is the reduction in the products and the utilities that we use at TS Designs. For instance, our screen reclamation, where we recycle the water one time over from the degreasing and reclamation process. Being involved in the EPA Green Light program, which has significantly reduced our energy cost here. That, coupled with the use of automatic setback thermostat, our energy use is a tremendous cost we've saved here. Our buying processes, where we reduce the amount of product that we buy and how we buy those products, has been a tremendous savings. And then basically, as you saw in the front of our building, how we landscape. That in itself saves us thousands of dollars a year over typical landscaping that you would see in this community.
TS Designs has also been a partner in EPA's Design for the Environment program, which has resulted in more efficient processes.
In the development of our screen management system, which includes ink removal, reclamation, and degreasing, not only have we seen a 50% reduction in our cost in this area, we've seen an improvement in the quality of screens, we've seen a significant reduction in the amount of chemicals that we use in this area, and basically we're producing a better quality product, so it is a win-win situation. Basically, environmental awareness is, as it says, is a journey, not a destination. So our challenge is to continue to educate our managers and our employees to be able to address those challenges and give them the tools in which they can make proper decisions, and as we have to face new regulation or new technologies.
You've heard about EMS process and benefits from Jeff and Eric. Both have emphasized that an environmental management system is a journey, not a destination. It creates the framework for continuous improvement in your business. And you also heard that there are different ways a company can approach the development of an EMS. There are formal systems, such as an ISO 14001, and less formal approaches that Jeff and Eric have used in their companies.
Certainly ISO 14000 is a good model, and you can get a lot of great ideas from it, but I think it's much more important to recognize that your company's environmental management system really has to fit the circumstances of your operations, and not some arbitrary standard. So by all means, take a look at ISO 14000 and what it has to offer, but be willing to be flexible off of that. If you need something that's different, you should go ahead and do that.
Do you want more information on how you can do your own EMS? Useful information is out there. Two good sources for small businesses are an EMS implementation guide from NSF International in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and the U.S. EPA Design for the Environment. Its website is www.epa.gov/DFE. There you have it. Does EMS make sense for you? If you ask Jeff and Eric, they'll be sure to tell you it can make good business sense for any company.